naloxone. What we kind of typically see is people tend to look at that and be like, where is that? You know. What methadone does is stabilize somebody from an incredibly unstable situation. Whenever you are on an opiate, what tends to happen is you get something and you crash down. You get something and you crash down. You get something and that's your day. So what methadone does is it relieves that. It puts you on a stable dose and you're able to start to function again. You're able to start to get some counseling. You're able to start to breathe, you know, and work on the stuff that kind of got you there in the first place. So it's awesome. What we typically see is about 90% quote clean rate, where those people that are coming onto our program, 90% of them stop using it, which is fantastic. That's what we want it to do. We don't want, or we don't incorporate where you need to stay on this forever. What we typically did with Discovery House was we used tapering groups as part of our program, where you would come in, learn about tapering, learn about, you know, other situations, other objectives in your life. We continued that. Methadone, though, isn't the cure-all. It's not the be-all. It's one particular path that people take. Who drinks coffee? Yeah. Who functions without coffee in the morning? You can, but do you like it? I do. When people start to use specifically opiates, you don't just turn it off, you know? And that's what I typically see with the community, is they're just like, well, why don't you just stop? Why can't these people stop, you know? And that's what I always ask, you know, do you smoke? Do you drink coffee? It's the same exact thing, only 100 times worse. So we have to do what I said earlier, is create action. These guys, it's fantastic that we're creating action, state level. That's what we need. This prescription monitoring program is going to be fantastic. However, it's going to create an issue as well that we need to start addressing. The action that I'm here to talk about is get people into treatment somewhere. It doesn't have to be methadone, it doesn't have to be Suboxone. It needs to be treatment. People need to realize that they need help and that there's help for them. Whenever you start to realize that you need help and it's not there for you, it's an unbelievably hopeless situation. When you are in a hopeless situation, people start to think about suicide, people start to think about homicide, people start to think about any other thing that can harm themselves or harm other people. We need to create situations where it's going to bring hope to those around us. So that's what I'd leave us with tonight, is to get people into treatment, whether it's inpatient, outpatient, methadone-assisted treatment, any types of treatment. Because I'm a pastor, I like to use, there's a scripture in Romans chapter 12 where it talks about renewing of our minds to see the purpose that God has for us. Whenever you get into treatment, you give someone that opportunity to start to change their minds and start to have it renewed and go in a different path. And that's what I think that any type of treatment is designed for. Thank you.
Next up, we have Heather Woods. Heather Woods is an individual in recovery and an overdose survivor. She's not only that, she is employed and she has family and friends who care about her. Heather has participated in Allegheny County's drug court for a year. She feels it has saved her life and has started her on this journey. It is important for Heather to share her story and to be a mentor to others. She considers giving back to her community as a way to continue and strengthen her own journey. Thank you.
My name is Heather Woods. I'm a woman in long-term recovery, and what this means to me, I haven't used a mind or mood altering substance in almost 2 years. I'm a registered voter. I'm an employee, a positive role model to my family and my friends. I started using marijuana at the age of 16. I added opiates and cocaine to the mix. I was maintaining above average grades in school. I'm a star athlete in softball and track. I was always trying to be the best at everything I did, even in my addiction. I was taking classes at the local CCAC and doing medical coding and billing for almost 15 years. And taking cocaine and opiates to keep me going and working long hours. And taking Xanax to help me wind down at the end of the day to sleep. Throughout the years, I was married and divorced twice, buying beautiful homes and driving brand new cars, fine dining, and etc. And then heroin entered the picture. I quickly lost the ability to maintain my lifestyle, work, morals, and possessions became secondary. Within the next year, I became homeless, penniless, jobless, helpless, unattached to reality. I began committing more serious crimes and taking part of demoralizing activities. My perception became distorted. Drugs became the only thing that mattered. I didn't see a way out. The disease of addiction altered my ability to problem solve. I have overdosed 11 times throughout my addiction. I am very grateful for the person in my life that called 911 to get me to the hospital. 7 of those overdoses, I was life-flighted to the amount of drugs that I had in my system. I would not wake up to 2 days later wondering where I was and what happened, mad at the world, focused on trying to get the next fix. But thank God for Narcan that would not be alive today. I'm gonna go back to a minute to the overdosing, because I just lost the person that was there for me through the overdoses. Every time I was a friend for 20 years, and just died on Saturday to an overdose. They found him dead in the woods to an overdose. He died on Tuesday, and they found him dead in the woods Saturday. We just buried him today. It was just something very emotional, but I had to get it out there and talk today and be here today because I need to reach out and speak of this overdose because it's deadly. It's a deadly disease. We need to share that. Within the last year of my addiction, I got 3 DUIs due to heroin and benzos, all within a mile radius of my house. That's the insanity of this disease. But thank God I finally got arrested. I thought I'd never say that. I was grateful to have my cousin Adrian and her husband been in drug court and both graduating clean today, living a great life. They have led a great path for me. They have mentioned the Allegheny County Drug Court program to me. I was leery of it at first, but once I pled into the Allegheny County Drug Court, it has turned my life around. They put me in a 6-month inpatient program at Family Links, then a 3-quarter house, and now I'm in a 12-step fellowship, and now I'm living on my own 2 feet again. I have a great job, wonderful employer, a sponsor, great friends, support, and a wonderful family. I live one day at a time. Timeless is critical for recovery. Waiting for these services can be a difference between life and death. I am one of the lucky ones. Heather Woods, person in long-term recovery.
Before I introduce our last speaker, I'd like to remind you guys about the index cards that are in your folders. After I invite Carol up to speak, I'm going to ask Kentucky, if you don't mind, to walk around and collect those cards. We'll use those for our question and answer session. But now I'd like to invite up Miss Carol Ramsey. Carol Ramsey shares that she has not been exempt from living life on its own terms by overcoming many obstacles. Many of her life challenges came from living with the disease of addiction. Today in recovery, these challenges are her gifts. Carol stated that, "I feel as though I have been given the opportunity to live 2 lives in 1 lifetime. A person in long-term recovery, which means she hasn't used any drugs or alcohol since 9/11 of 1992. Give it up for Carol.
Hello, everybody. How y'all doing this evening? It's an honor for me to be here today. I am a person in long-term recovery, which means I haven't used any mind, mood, alcohol, chemicals in over 24 years. I'm a productive member of I'm a registered voter. I'm a valued employee. employee, a loving mother, sister, friend, and neighbor. And, I love that we're doing this because it is very well needed. There's been heroin epidemics going on for many years, over many decades. I was a heroin user also, and I started using back in the '60s, and it wasn't because of painkillers, it just was because I was following the crowd and trying to escape different things in my life. And so I used heroin for over 25 years of my life and overdosed many times. Thank God they had Narcan back then. It wasn't as freely, readily, available as it is now, but they had it. And so happened I was with people that, took me to the hospital and helped to save my life. And I'm also grateful for the criminal justice system because that's how I got into recovery. I got a nudge from the judge, which I needed very badly. And I got in recovery and I got involved, I started working after about my first year. And then I got involved with message carriers. I've been involved with message carriers maybe about 13 years now. And I'm grateful because it's another way for me to give back to the society from which I took for so many years. Because I could never repay God for my life, for giving me what I had. And so, and it's a way to put a face and voice to recovery for people that can't put a face and voice on recovery. And I'm grateful that in my job, I can say that I'm an addict. I can raise my hand and say, yes, I'm an addict, or I'm a person in long-term recovery. I have the freedom to say that. And like Jason was saying, we need to decrease or get rid of, hopefully, eventually, that stigma attached because it's actually a public health issue. It's not, it's a disease. Just like heart disease, cancer, any other disease. And so that's why I'm involved with justice carriers because I can fight for these type of, for different bills and different things like that. I'm a certified recovery specialist and so I'm able to take the lived experience that I've had and know that it wasn't in vain. I'm able to help other people today in my job and just in my everyday life. Like I said, it's like I live 2 lives in one, and it's like God just, He pays me for something that I would do for free. It's like, oh my goodness, this is awesome. You know what I mean? And so I'm glad we're having this conversation, and I'm sure it will continue. And welcome anybody that's new. There is hope. That's one of the things that I want people to know, that there's hope after dope. We don't have to continue, living like that because through love for many years, and so I continue to do this type of work and do these type of things that maybe somebody